We go. Can you hear me now? It just might not be as good because it's just the internal speakers. Sorry about that. I don't know what is wrong with this microphone. It is supposed to be like a really good quality microphone, and it is, I don't know what's wrong with it. So, it does kind of look like mute is on, but I don't know how to turn mute off. But I'm sorry, you're just gonna have to deal with this internal microphone for my 5-year-old computer. So welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. June is here. I am so excited. It is June the 4th, I believe. And I'm just stoked to have you all here. I've got my water. Where are you from? I'm from Vancouver Island, and I'm joining you. It actually is finally getting sunny. We had about 10 days of rain, and it was just driving me nuts. I'm glad you guys can hear me. Yay. Okay, tell me where you're from, what you're drinking. I know that was like a crazy start to things, and I'm excited to dive in and start chatting about our organization, right? Who is June? Lisa says, I didn't know who June was. I am so excited. I love June. In fact, I love May too. In fact, May is usually sunnier and nicer here than June, which is funny. And then July and August is basically like a drought the whole time. But Diana's here from California. Amanda's here from California. Lisa, Saskatchewan. Meg's here. Last of the coffee before I start on water. Amanda drinking iced tea with ginger. Yay! Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're all here. Debbie's here drinking some water just like me. I actually just didn't have time to make more tea because technical issues as the last couple of live streams I've had, which is such a pain, but I'm very sorry. But I'm so glad that you're here. And Lisa's drinking beet juice. Wow, good for you. I have tried so much of my life to like beets, and I just struggle. I just struggle so much with the beets. Ugh. I don't remember having a spring with so much wind before. Yeah, it's super windy here as well. And I know Debbie's in Washington, which isn't too far from Vancouver Island where I live, although Washington is pretty big. I think you're closer to the coast though, right? Shelly's here from Newfoundland. Fun. Oh my gosh. Susanna's hitting the Red Bull. I love it. Mint tea for Heather because it's getting later in the day for sure. Amelie's here. Iced coffee. Yay. You guys, this is just so great to come and meet with you guys. And it's so lovely. I'm just like looking at like where people are from and what their drinks are. So I'm not gonna like completely continue calling you all out, but hello, you're all here. Yeah, so I'm just excited. I'm excited to come live with you and to chat about organization. Make sure if you have questions, you go ahead and that you put them in the chat. I have a couple of questions that came in from YouTube and a couple from Instagram, and some things on the old internet are being weird today, which is just like classic internet. Classic everything these days, I tell you. There's always weird stuff that happens, right? And I do want to start with the very first question before I get into a couple of tips. And the first question is from Jax AF from Instagram, and it is, do you ever regret parting with something? And if so, how do you handle that feeling? So for me, I don't regret parting with anything. The one thing that I have decluttered that I have replaced, because a lot of times people think, oh, I'm going to end up decluttering things and I'm going to end up needing to buy them again. I've had people say, is minimalism for poor people? And I mean, first of all, like minimalism is for everybody. Minimalism is for no matter what your income is, and that is not my term. For people, that's theirs. Minimalism is for everybody, because don't expect to replace the stuff you're decluttering, right? You're going to save so much money. I actually just filmed a video yesterday about, and I think it's coming out Thursday, but it's about how much clutter costs us. Clutter costs us so much. It costs us so much in money. We are paying for it to live in our house. We are paying for just many things. Like if you have allergies, if you break if you have an accident as a result of your clutter and you have to pay for medical care as a result of that, or you have to pay for prescriptions or physiotherapy or whatever, that is costing you money. So if you have to replace the odd thing, which is very unlikely for the most part, I still think you're going to come out way, way ahead. Now, the one thing that I ever decluttered that I ended up repurchasing was I bought some big 2-liter jars to make kombucha because my family loves kombucha. I like for everybody to have a little bit of fermented food every day. And I tell you, one of the best ways to get kids to have fermented food is with some delicious fizzy kombucha. And mine is like pretty low sugar. And anyway, so a couple of years ago when I was on a decluttering kick and I was kind of tired of making kombucha, and I thought, you know what, I don't think I'm going to make any more kombucha. So I ended up decluttering some jars. And then what I did was about a year later, realizing that it's actually summer when I make the most kombucha when people want like cold fizzy drinks, I ended up repurchasing those jars. Now, first of all, I didn't need to repurchase those jars. In fact, some of those jars, one of them I think is like an old pickle jar. So, but that's besides the point. I spent $20, 20 or 30 on these jars. It's expensive here in Canada. And I don't regret it because they were out of my house for a year, but all of the other stuff that I decluttered has saved me not only time, but it has also saved me that mental anguish. And decluttering is all about ultimately living your best life, in my opinion. And yes, money is an important part of life in our society, and I totally appreciate that. But there's so much more, like your time. What is your time worth? That is the one resource you can never get more of is time. And so if we're wasting our time, like managing our clutter, moving it around, intermittently decluttering, but not really being serious about us, that really, really costs you a lot if you think about it. So Ladybug says, can you make a video and teach us how to make kombucha? I might. On my other channel, I think I will. On this one, probably not. But on the other one, yeah. Okay. For decluttering to go faster, would you recommend minimalism by the number of things? I would say that if you were decluttering and you said, I wanted to declutter like 30 things today or whatever, I think that works well. We did in our Untangled Facebook group, we did a challenge where we decluttered. We did the 30-day decluttering. Is it called the challenge? And basically you declutter one, like on day 1 you declutter one thing, on day 2 you declutter 2 things, and all the way up to 30, which is 30. Now some people started in the reverse, and I actually think that's how I would do it, because when I did the decluttering game, I on day 1 could have easily found 30 things to declutter. But by the time I got, and so if you're working your way down, that would be easier than working your way up, because when you are decluttering towards the end of the month, after you've already done, because you end up decluttering, I believe it's like almost 300 things that month. So when you get to the end, it almost can be a little bit harder. And so now, so when you say not like keep, so like keep X number of things, that would be hard to define, and you certainly could do that for yourself. I would say that what would be more doable for me is to say on my desk, I keep these 7 things, right? Or if I said, in my kitchen, I have 3 pots and we have 5 plates and whatever. I totally think that that could totally work. But the great news about if you are minimalist or decluttering, whatever, is you do what works for you, but that you just like hold yourself accountable to whatever you've decided. So for me, I am minimalist light, as we talked about, as the lovely Elisa, who is here. She named it that term, and I just love it because that is what I am. I am a person with a lot of hobbies, but I am minimalist light. I get rid of what I don't use. And I actually am going to make a video about what it's like living with non-minimalists when you're minimalist, because to be honest, I still think my house would look a lot more minimalist if my family didn't live here, but they do, and I love them, and I want them to live here. But I'm just saying. Um, so I just want to make sure I don't have any questions I'm missing. Feel free, put your questions in the chat. I'm just going to jump on here on my YouTube in the back end, and I am just going to look up the questions because there, like I said, there was a really weird thing that happened. Oh, there we go. When I'm on my computer, it's so much easier to see things than it is on my laptop. And sometimes I forget that I'm on my computer. Okay. Oh, look at all these questions. This is lovely. Okay. The first one, and I really, really liked this one. Jenny asked this question, and it was on how to help elder parents declutter when they ask for help doing so, but then also how to gracefully say no to items that they offer when doing so. So, what I think is so great about this question is that when we're invited in to help somebody declutter, we can see that as a total burden, or we can see that as a really great opportunity to show some love to our family and also keep our boundaries in place. And that is such an important thing when dealing with a lot of different family members. So, what I would suggest is I would be like, okay, I'm so excited to help you declutter when you're visiting your family and you're helping them. And then also to, when they're saying, I want to give you this, you could very easily just say, oh my gosh, thank you so much for offering that. I don't have the space for that, or that's actually not something I would use. But why don't you tell me the story behind it? And then they can share their story about why they like this thing. And then you can say, this is a much better opportunity for us to give this to somebody who would use it. We can donate it to the thrift store where the right person is going to come along and they're going to self-select that item for themselves. So the right person gets it instead of just handing it down. Because, and you can share this because I think we all know that this is true, that when somebody is giving us something, or when we're giving somebody something, it's really that we're struggling to part with that item and it makes us feel better. Like we're not really decluttering it, we're giving it to somebody else. And I mean, I currently am trying so hard to get rid of an air hockey table. And like honestly, I just want to like jump on my Facebook Messenger and see if somebody else has messaged, because people message me all the time about this thing. And I'm like, just come and get it. Um, because so when we give it to somebody else, it's also easier to offload it because we're like, great, we found somebody to give it to. But instead, what we can just say to our family member is, we're already doing some decluttering. So we're already going to the thrift store, which is great. And I know that this is so important to you. Tell me the story. And here's why I am not going to take it. And you don't even need to say can't, but you can just say, here's why I'm not going to take it. Because I myself have a lot of things from my own life, and I'm trying really hard to be intentional about my space because I know how important it is for me to have less stuff around. And it's so common for people right now to be struggling with their parents' belongings or their grandparents' belongings, because when they pass on, we inherit those things, and it often is more like we're inheriting a problem instead of an actual gift. And that, I mean, I have my group coaching clients, and several of them are dealing with uh, the bulk of things that they got from family members. So not only do we have the stuff from the decades of our own life, but now we have stuff from one or two or more people, full lifetime of stuff to go through. Nobody wants to do that to their kids. The thing is, nobody just thinks about it ahead of time. We're just, I get it, right? I totally get it. Okay, I'm just gonna look here. If I have, don't declutter to family, totally, totally love that, Eliza. It's so true. Debbie says, if I have multiples of an item, I keep one or two and declutter the rest. I used to collect lots of things and I got from my mom. Yeah, I get it, right? And that's just it. Like, we only need so many things. In my house, it's funny because like some people, they can go totally extreme minimalist, excuse me, and they'll only have like 4 plates for a family of 4. In my house, that just does not work. Like, it just does not work. But I think it's great for the people that it works for. Lisa says, I take my friends' stuff to the thrift store for them once they have it in a box. That's so great, especially if the friends don't do that final step to donate the stuff. Yes, thank you for all of my help. I'm so glad you're here, Cray Cray. That is great. Yeah, I love it. Okay, let's get, and you guys keep popping your questions in there if you want. Okay, so the Fit Minimalist asks how to get and stay motivated. All right, so one of the best ways that I find to get motivated is to really just get a vision of what you want your space to be like, but more so what you want your life to be like. So when we're thinking of decluttering, we may just think, oh, and now my space has way less stuff. But there's something that goes deeper than that. Like, there's a feeling that comes with that, and that feeling might be what frustration we have when we're having to manage the stuff all the time, or how hard it is to cook dinner in a kitchen that has like stuff all over all of the surfaces, or what it's like to try to find things in our closet, or just that sort of judgment we have of ourselves when we go into our garage or our storeroom or anywhere, or even our living room. So tap into that, the deeper reason. Like, besides, I want my house decluttered, but why is that bothering you? So tap into that for that motivation. And then also, just like write down how great it's going to feel once you have that done. And I think that is a great way to get motivated. Now, to stay motivated, of course, I don't have my planner here. I might have an old one. Okay, so I love these planners. This is my plum planner. I'm actually going to put a link in the description because I finally just got an affiliate because I talk about them so much. And these ones have removable covers. And well, the ones I get do, because I like variety. I'm a minimalist light who likes variety. And I love to stay motivated because by having a light schedule for myself, and this is important for a lot of those of you who are retired also, because a lot of people who are retired, they're like, well, I don't have a job, I don't have like kids to take care of a lot of the time, and I have no like structure to my life at all. So when you do have some kind of a schedule, and I was not great at having a schedule when my kids were little. Like, the best schedule I could really have was like around their naps. But as a person with ADHD, I really have struggled with things like schedules for a really long time, even though they're so helpful. You think of them as a bowling alley, those bumpers on either side of the bowling alley, they keep the ball in the lane, right? That's your schedule. So for motivation, having some kind of a schedule, and that's why I say I like to have my planner so much, because if I just like open up, a wall calendar can totally work, Eliza. Like, if I go here, like, I will just write down some priorities that I have. A lot of these are around making YouTube because YouTube takes a lot of time. But like, if I put like edit and thumbnail in there, then I'm like, okay, those are things I'm doing that day. If you want to declutter your space and you just put down every single day, if you're like closet, hall closet, today I'm decluttering the hall closet. or even just like one shelf of the hall closet. And then if you're like me and you put a little ticky box, you just tick off when you get that hall closet decluttered. That feels so good. That literally for me, and I think for a lot of people, there's like a real dopamine release when you get that. That can be a great way of being motivated. The other thing is when we start something new, it has a bit of a novelty to it. So we're much more excited to do it. And this is why when that novelty starts wearing off, a lot of times we get this thing called resistance, which makes it so that our brain comes up with all these reasons why we don't need to do it because your brain really, really, really wants to save energy. It doesn't like to spend calories doing anything. So it's going to be like, maybe you should just watch another Donahue or something. I wonder if Donahue's on YouTube. There's some old ones. Anyway, it might say that, right? Like, so it's going to try to stop you. So to find that motivation, what you can do is number one, your first line of defense might be just to rely on your calendar or your planner. Number two might be to then review the reasons why you're decluttering in the first place. So you have written that down, why it bothers you and how great it's going to be once your space is decluttered. And then the third thing I really like that you can do is to reward yourself. So for me, I love to reward myself. I reward myself with tea a lot of the time, but if I'm really struggling, I might say I'm going to reward myself by driving to Starbucks and getting a Starbucks or something else, like something. For me, it's not usually like a big thing, and I'm not generally going to buy something new. Although, as a quick aside, I did just get a new treat for myself, and I'm going to take my camera and show you. Now, don't mind the top of that. It's got boxes. I'm saving them for something, but you see that? That is my new walking treadmill. Now, I don't like where it is. I'm going to put it in a different spot, but that is for me. I actually have a real treadmill downstairs to put right here. So when I'm working, instead of just sitting here all day, because when I'm working as a nurse, I'm walking all over the place. But when I'm not, when I'm working here, I'm just sitting. So now I have my walking treadmill. So I will link the one I have below because I know people will ask. But the point is that I have that there and I don't like walking in here and seeing it. So I'm going to find a solution of where exactly I'm going to keep it. And I like that because I know that whenever we're buying something new, we need to know where we're keeping it. I know where I'm keeping it and where we are going to, and if we need to declutter anything to replace that. I'm gonna look at, I've got a couple questions here. So somebody said how to deal with antiques, Lisa said, and I'm very happy that Elisa, so we got Lisa and Elisa, that Elisa, oh, okay. I'm going to answer your question about my calendar. But anyway, I'm glad that you answered that. An estate sale with a person who knows how to sell antiques. Thank you for answering that because I don't know much about antiques and auction houses. Now, my wall calendar, I love my wall calendar. And what it's really helpful for is like the big picture planning, right? So I have my wall calendar and then in the kitchen, which is mostly for the family, although it is helpful for me, there's a month calendar, like your traditional calendar, which helps like my husband basically, because the kids they don't care, but have him know like at a glance what's going on. And then I've got my planner, which helps me plan my weeks and my days. So helpful. Good for you. Cindy is just working away. Now, Pegs, I actually just earlier in this, you probably just got on here right after I said it. Anything that I regret getting rid of. So just watch the beginning again because I don't want to repeat it for the people that were already here. Any advice on dealing with overwhelm of the day to day that tends to take place at certain times of the month during perimenopause? I find some days just laundry and dishes send me into overwhelm. And I think like what's great about that is that what we can do is just be really aware of what is happening with ourselves. And it's funny that it like took into my 40s for me to really appreciate the um what is the word? Like the rhythm that a woman's cycle brings and how I would just in my 40s started being like really nice to myself when it was like the first couple days of my cycle. And I would be like, you know what, I'm gonna like sit here and read a little bit. And so I think that what you can do, and with perimenopause, like it can get pretty unpredictable where we are and what is even happening. Like I was saying on my other channel that my calendar was like, you might get your period in the next 2 weeks. And I was like, that is not very helpful. But what's great is I can say, okay, like, all right, I've got it today. I'm really tired. And so what we can do is make some kind of um, like a good routine out of things. I want to say ceremony, but that is so not the right word. But like saying like, okay, on day one. So typically for me on day one of my cycle, I'm just like, I'm not going to probably work out. I might have an extra cup of tea. I might spend an extra hour reading or something. So something just to almost just like that little bit of extra self-care. I think so many times us women, we spend so much of our lives go, go, go. And we feel like our job is just to support everybody and to do, do, do. And there are times where we need to just say, now is the day where I'm spending a little bit of time loving on myself, caring on myself, treating myself. And that is, I think, what you could do. And that's sort of what I do. And so if you have plans to declutter, which, I mean, I think like that's great, but sometimes you can say, all right, this is like day one of my cycle. I'm going to take it easy. Or what you can say is, I'm going to do it. I'm only going to do half a job. Or you could say, I'm just going to see what happens. Having a hard time with donating old electronics and small appliances. Can't seem to send to the landfill. It hurts because they still work. Any ideas? Oh, Veronica, can I tell you, I have this problem too. So I just mentioned earlier that I'm selling an air hockey table. Like this is a huge table. We inherited it from my grandparents when they moved out of their house. And I can get rid of that. I know I can. But we have two old uh, armchairs and I am trying to get rid of them for free. There's nothing I can do. I have tried to donate them. They're just not in good enough shape. Now, what some people will do, and a lot of people who have clutter problems, they have a bit of a savior complex in that they think that they need to be the one that is taking things and I can fix this and all of the things. Meanwhile, what really is happening is we're just getting more and more clutter. So for me, with these, I have not a lot of choice. We probably are going to have to send these chairs to the landfill, and it kills me. It kills me. I have tried. I have looked high and low, and I just don't know how I can get rid of these otherwise. So there are just times where your only choice is either to live with it for the rest of your life or send it to the landfill. And so the only thing you can do, Veronica, is like look around your area, high and low, and see if you can donate it. Otherwise, just say to yourself, what do you think one of the first things somebody going through your stuff is going to do when you pass away? And that is send that stuff to the landfill. So it may as well be you so that you don't have to live with that. I don't know if you saw my question on Facebook. Oh, maybe I did not. Okay. Maybe I looked at one of the other spots. Thank you so much for asking again, Amanda. How do you keep track of a large food inventory? I forget what I have if I have overshopped, but I also hate having to stick to my meal plan and not having extra. Oh, I totally get it. For me, I am not necessarily the right person to ask about this. What I plan to do is where the room where we're getting rid of the air hockey table and the chairs that, by the way, nobody uses except for the cats. What I plan to do is to um, put up a couple of shelves for some of our long-term food storage because I've explained we live in an earthquake zone and I don't want to be caught with my pants down because we had a power outage that lasted for 3 or 4 days in 2018 and that was a real rude awakening when I went to my emergency box and I found all we had were expired granola bars and applesauce and a radio that did not work. So I think that it's important to have a long-term food storage, and I do actually find I save a ton of money by having some extra food that I've preserved. I got a freeze dryer that's helping me preserve food and save money. So one of the things that I think you could do is to try to organize it. And this is my very long-winded way of saying is I'm trying to organize it. And then I do want to find a way of categorizing it. Now I have a friend. I'm gonna try to think. Why can't I? Of course, like right now while we're chatting, I can't remember. Um, she has. Oh, what is her name? Listen. This prepared life. So her thing is just about being prepared for with like for food shortages. So she has a YouTube channel and an Instagram, This Prepared Life. And she, I think, has great ways of organizing food as well. But yeah, I think like honestly, just like some way of keeping lists. Some people they'll just keep lists right there. So I think that can be really helpful too. Um Yeah, e-cycle. So for me, I think I can e-cycle things here. It's just those darn chairs. Okay. Any tips for family photos? My mom has two big toes, and one of the people in the pics I don't know. Suggestions. Um, So are you going through your mom's stuff after she's gone or what? I mean, I think that like when it comes to photos, we feel terrible decluttering photos. Like, I'm going to be honest, I don't love decluttering photos. It makes me feel weird throwing things in the garbage. Like I got like 50 photos of my son when he was like a year or two old on Christmas cards. And then I'm like, what do we do with all of these? And I eventually I threw it away. It just felt weird. Like even thinking about it now, it feels weird. And I think in times like that where you know you're making the right decision, you just kind of do it and just kind of just don't look back. But if you want to keep photos, keep them, organize them, right? And that is a big job and it's a great thing to do when you have the time. My mother-in-law moved in with my husband and myself a few years ago. A lot of her stuff came along with her that no one wants or looks at. She won't get rid of anything because she paid lots of money. Oh, see, that's a hard one. So, first of all, your husband is going to be probably best to be the right person to be dealing with her things because um, she it's just better, right? Like, I love my mother-in-law and my family over there, and it's still best. We've been married for 20 years this year, and I still think it's best if my husband deals with his family and I deal with my family, just because it just is just easier, right? But in a lot of cases, it's best you gotta just deal with your stuff first as long as there's any of your stuff left to declutter, focus on your stuff. Then you can start encouraging people that if they're not using it, whether or not they've paid money, if there's a sunk cost fallacy. Like we assume just because we spend money on something, it's valuable, but quite often it's not. So she really does need to declutter some of it, but you need to make sure that all of your stuff, all of your husband's stuff is decluttered before you start looking at hers because that's just how it has to be, and I totally get it. But also your husband's gonna have to be the one to talk to her. And I totally agree with Megan here. She says, your home's not a landfill, nor is it a museum. Sometimes the reality is we have to throw it out. Yeah, it's so true. Oh my gosh. So that's a great idea, Lisa, but it is so humid here. Like it literally is the rainforest. It actually is a rainforest that it would not last like a month without getting moldy, unfortunately. Oh gosh. I know, I hate throwing out stuff like that. It's also a total pain. You gotta, like, dismantle it to take it to the landfill. The ultimate prep system. Ooh, that's a good one. I'm gonna write that down in my old planner. I'm not gonna close this page because it'll be lost forever. Prep system. Let's see. I meant to say some of the photos I don't know in some of the people I don't know in the photos. I understand that, but I mean, some of the people in the photos. So keep the photos that feel good, right? We don't have to keep all of the photos. We really, really don't. Thank you on the 20-year congratulations, CL and Elisa. Keep one copy of photos and shred the others. Maybe see if mom can tell you stories about the people in the photos you don't know. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we we don't want to keep all of this extra stuff around. Okay, let me get where are the other questions. Why are you doing that, YouTube, you silly YouTube? I'm like on this page and then automatically it starts showing my videos even though I'm looking at questions. They're so silly. Okay. Um do you like baseball? Jenny says. Are you a Toronto Blue Jays fan? I'm getting ready to go to a Jays game while the live is happening. So these are burning questions on my mind currently. I am so grateful that I married a man who is not into sports at all. Because when I was growing up, my dad and my brother and my grandpa, they all had sports on all the time, all of the sports, and I hated it. The baseball and hockey are two sports I can watch, but I would really just want to watch them live and basically just for the atmosphere. So Vanessa asks sentimental items versus photo. Can a photo replace the items? Uh, okay, so when it comes to, and then she asked another question about simplifying life as far as relationships go. So I'll try to answer that. I did ask her a follow up question. I did not get that. If you're here, Vanessa, because she often shows up, just let me know. Um, so sentimental items versus a photo. Now, first of all, I don't think that you need to declutter all of your sentimental items. What I think we need to declutter is the things we're keeping just in case that we don't use and we haven't used for a really long time or ever. Sentimental items, as Peter Walsh says, you should only have enough to cover your dining room table at the most. Somebody had said they had all of theirs under their bed, and I thought that didn't seem like too much recently. I'm not sure where I read that, but in one of my groups they did. So I think that we don't need to get rid of all of our sentimental items. What we should get rid of, in my opinion, is things that, sure, they bring back a memory, but they're not truly sentimental, meaning there's not like a real serious or meaningful event or meaningful person tied to something. And when we keep something sentimental, like if I keep something sentimental from my dad who has passed away, I don't keep every single thing of his, right? Um, and maybe like even just saying that, I feel like, oh, right. But we have to realize that things are things. Our stuff is meant to support our life. It's not meant to, we're not meant to support our stuff. So we can keep a couple of things to be sentimental. So um, I don't think you need to get rid of all of your sentimental stuff. I do think photos are a great thing to do to remember some things. Another great thing is that, sure, like the picture of something might be good, but maybe pair it with a journal because then you can write down the smell of something or the smell of the day that you're remembering and the sound of whatever and the feeling that you had. I think that's so good. Saved by Grace says, as far as pictures go, less is more. So we had something destroyed her toes. Yeah, totally. I get it. We now have one small shoebox. Oh, I love it. It's funny because we had a flood and some things were damaged, but it made it easy to declutter those things. And I know a couple who they had a fire in their garage and they were like, oh, like it was so good. So if you think about it, how would you feel if this stuff like was lost in fire? Right? Or if it was instantly gone, if the decision was gone, how would you feel? Would you let it go? I think that can be very telling. Um, all right, so I am just chatting away. I'm gonna check one thing here. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I did want to give 3 tips for organizing quickly before we go on. And then if there's any more questions, I'll try to get to those. So the first thing I think is really good, and I mean, you're going to hear this all the time, but it's just so important. And that is that it's really important to declutter before you organize. Otherwise, first of all, you're going to have so much more stuff that you have to organize, which is not fun, right? You're really just creating more work for yourself because you just keep handling the stuff you don't use all the time, right? Like touch it once, right? Pick it up, put it down, like that's it. Boom, done. I think that is just such a really, really important thing is to declutter first. Another really, really big one is to do a little bit every day as far as organizing goes or decluttering. If we're every day, if we're just making sure that we find a spot for something, and I love how Dana K. White says, like, the first spot, the first place that comes to mind, that's where you put it. I think that's great. And a lot of the time, that's where we use it. So, where do I have my tea? It's right by my kettle, right? Um, and sorry, I just had to, thought I had to write down. It's right by my kettle. And where do I have my laundry stuff? It's right in the laundry space. That's where I keep my other cleaning supplies. So I know when I'm organizing, if I come across cleaning supplies that I'm keeping, I put them there, right? So number one, declutter first. Number two, do a little bit every day of organizing and decluttering, which is great. You can actually do both things at the same time for the things that you're keeping. And the third thing is to try to keep flat surfaces clear. Now, don't stress yourself out about this, but I think this is so handy when we're decluttering. So, say you start in the bathroom and you had a couple things up on the counter that you don't need out all the time. Keep those put away. And I think that is a really, really handy way to do things. Okay, those are my 3 tips. I just want to get those out because I thought I'm gonna have to say this so fast because we have so many questions here. Veronica says, kept my sister's clock and donated her weed whacker. Love it. Perfect. Choose the smallest items to keep. Yeah, and like maybe maybe every time you're weed whacking, you'd be thinking of your sister. Oh, that's a good one. I love it. Any more questions before we depart for the day? This has been so fun chatting with you guys. Ah, I love it. I'm so happy it's sunny out now, or it's getting there. Tomorrow, first day. It's been a long haul of rain for us. It's been almost 2 weeks. When my mom passed away and my siblings and I were taking some of her items with us, I asked for my mom's youth suitcase with her initials on it and only took what would fill that suitcase. Yes, I love that. That's a really good one. And because then what's nice is you know that that just keeps that one small space full, which is so good. Okay, here we go. Any tips on getting your spouse on board if they were hoarder and you're neat? So, first off, my thing is always you declutter all of your stuff first. And I know that that is hard to do, but what you can also do is start asking them, like, how their stuff is making them feel. Another option is some kind of counseling or therapy for them. But I think that the best thing to do is how we approach things with them. And we can just say, not like your stuff makes me feel this, but when we're in a cluttered space, this is how I feel. I feel more anxious. I feel like I can't relax. And you can say, that's why I've started decluttering my stuff, and then declutter your stuff. Work on your stuff. Don't talk about it every day, but once you've decluttered a space and you're happy with that space, you can say, this is great. I love how great this space feels. And then don't talk about it. You can talk about it here and there, but then keep working at it. And then there might be times where you might come across something and you might say, like, hey, what do you think if I declutter this? Like, I came across something of my husband's recently, was like a mug, and he never uses it. I've never seen him use it. And I said, should we declutter this mug? And he said, nope. And I said, okay, so we still have it. because I'm just not like we're not our relationship is more important, truly, than that, and we can keep working because there are other things where he will declutter things. Um, Currently, we just inherited a car from a family member, an old car that my son is going to drive. And so we have a car that's literally falling apart. And my husband, he's sort of looking for reasons to keep it. And I'm just like, do we need to keep that? Like, I don't think so. So, I'm not pushing it. Like, I'm just like, okay, like we'll have a conversation and then there's different moods people are in, different things. Maybe somebody's distracted, and that's not a great time to talk about things. So I think that number one, you've got to get on top of your stuff first. Like, really make sure you declutter all of your stuff first. And then you can look at their stuff. But not really. You know what I mean? Like, kind of has to be theirs. CL has to run. All right. What about when it's an older family member that lives in a house of piles? How would you bring up decluttering? If you're not living there, I would just leave it alone. I mean, it may or may not be your problem when they pass away, but there are services where somebody will come and take most of it away. And that's what we ended up doing with a lot of my dad's stuff is my brother and I went through, we grabbed anything that was important to us and then we just had to have that taken away. So if it's not bothering them, you could also just say like, "Hey, would you like some help decluttering your stuff?" But only if like they say it bothers them. Otherwise, it just might be offensive. And to be honest, like I just think like, live and let live at this point, right? Um, yes, to always refocusing on our own belongings. Yep. Mhm. Yeah, that's a good time. You can offer to help them with dishes and laundry and presumably garbage. Yeah, that's a good one too. Can I help you pick up your garbage? But I think ultimately we just don't want to offend because it's just not worth it, right? It's like I don't know if this is true, but there was one study I read that said that and this was a long time ago. Do not ask me for a reference because I will not have one. But it was about that after age 85, it didn't matter what you ate. I don't know if that's true, honestly. I think that if I was over 85, I would still be trying to eat healthy. But I think that ultimately a person sort of has their habits set in stone and they're just probably not going to want to make. Yeah, oh, I love the trash thing. Dana, I love that she does trash first, and that's what I always would say with my kids when they're cleaning their rooms, like, "Pick up the garbage, then pick up your clothes," like, right there, you have, like, the bulk of everything picked up. Alright, everybody, I've gotta go. It has been so great to see you all and chat with you all, and thank you so much for coming to this live stream. Oh my gosh, absolutely the best fun ever. And I really appreciate you saying that too, Heather, that you helped your mom declutter and she loved it. That's lovely. Yes, if somebody wants help, yes. All right, everybody. I hope you have a great day. I hope something wonderful happens to you today.